People still come from all corners of the world to the quiet little village of Indian River, Michigan, to gaze upon this figure of Christ, the largest crucifix in the world. Christians and non-Christians alike have been inspired in one form or the other by simply walking through the grounds of this mammoth shrine. For some, inspiration comes from the contemplating of the life of Christ and the sacrifice that was made. For others, inspiration comes from contemplating the dedication of the man behind the sculpture, artist Marshall Fredericks. Fredericks donated his talents to the design and construction of the grounds and the crucifix back in the 50s. Wherever the inspiration comes from, believers and non-believers' lives have reportedly been changed after visiting these grounds. Since 1959, millions have made their way here in their own personal pilgrimages to the cross in the woods. 33 years have passed since this historic footage was taken back on that hot August day in '59 when the figure was hoisted to the cross. Since that time, the original luster is gone from the sculpture. Not so anyone without a trained eye could tell, but nonetheless, evidence of man-made air pollution and a natural weathering was detected on the structure in 1991 in the form of corrosion. A plea was made by current guardian of the cross, Father Donard Paulis, for assistance in raising the monies to cover the cost of revitalizing and restoration. Consultation was held with Sculptor Marshall Fredericks, and then the plans were set in motion to save from any further deterioration one of Michigan's most inspiring monuments. We visited Father Paulis in June 1992, the day before work was to begin on restoration. Parishioners were busy erecting the scaffolding that would hold the crew from Jensen Conservation Services out of Omaha, Nebraska. Restoration would take about 2 weeks. While the scaffolding was being put in place, Father reminisced with us about his involvement as guardian of the cross. You've been here at the cross for how many years?
It'll be 3 years in July.
3 years now.
3 fast years.
3 fast years.
Good years.
It's fairly overwhelming, I would imagine, for someone to come here and realize the inspiration that the cross has been to perhaps millions of people.
I had no familiarity actually with shrine work before, and so I came because the close relationship with Francis and the message that he got from the cross, his devotion to Jesus crucified. And but I am getting more and more convinced of, the worthwhileness of focusing on our Lord's sufferings and death, the impact that that still has on people, and is very, very helpful because everybody has a few crosses in their life too. And there's been some amazing examples of people deriving spiritual support from being here in the presence of this big cross.
We're talking with Les Brunning of Jensen Conservation, all the way from Nebraska, I believe it is.
That's
and
right.
We're putting a new face on the Indian River Cross in the Woods, the largest crucifix in the world, it's been called. Les, could you tell us exactly what's happening in the preservation here?
Well, we're putting a new skin on it. Over the years, the oxidation from the air and the pollutants in the air and just the natural minerals in the air have colored the sculpture. It's brought a green to it, and it's darkened it to such an extent that we want to bring some life and color back to it. And so what we're doing is treating it with chemicals and heat to bring some nice rich brown tones back into it. And then the final part of the process will be to lacquer the surface so that it seals in the coloration that we apply to it.
Now, this is a natural process as far as the sculpture being in this condition, isn't it? It's pretty in a shape that's it's normal for its age.
Oh yeah, it's a very natural process. And the sculpture was very well constructed, very well cast, and it's in excellent condition.
Compare it, if you would. You probably weren't here back in 1959, but it's compared to when it first went up, what kind of a condition? Will it be pretty much like it was originally in '59?
We think it'll be pretty much like it was. There's a few areas on it where we could see the nice warm brown that it originally had, and our intention as a conservation company is not to be creative artists, but in fact to return it to the artist's original vision of the piece.
I understand there was a bit of corrosion going on. Is that going to be checked then through this process?
There is a little bit, but very minor. Again, it's in excellent condition. and then the lacquer which covers the piece when we're finished will seal it from further erosion.
What are they doing at this point? We see this gentleman up on the scaffolding. What is he doing?
Well, what they're doing, each one has a torch, and they're heating the surface, and they have spray bottles with ferric nitrate. And you heat just a little section at a time, and as that heats up, you spray it on, and the heat rises and spreads and keep moving around the piece to build up the patina.
Talking to Robert C. Jensen of the Jensen Conservation Services out of Omaha, Nebraska. Tell us a bit about your conservation company. What do you specialize in? Things of this sort, artwork?
We do a lot of outdoor pieces, a lot of outdoor bronzes. We do stonework. We're doing the pieces from Boys Town, the He Ain't Heavy sculptures. There's a set of 5 in that edition. We did a piece for Marshall, or several pieces of Marshall's last year. They're at the Midland Arts Center in Midland, Michigan.
Many people don't realize that they see these bronze figures or these metal figures at art galleries, or especially outside, that preservation is a key factor in maintaining the credibility of the structure, isn't it?
Well, you maintain them to keep them looking good, to maintain their appearance and avoid any corrosion, disfigurement. And as the process goes on, you'll be able to see that you'll see more of the detail from a distance, rather than a complete matte finish.
Well, Rob Jensen, I appreciate you taking time to tell us about your company, and we looked for many details that start popping out on that huge structure, and we appreciate what you're doing for us in the area.
It'll be fun to watch as it goes along. Thank you.
Thank you.
The Jensen Company was handpicked by Sculptor Marshall Fredericks himself, who appeared on the grounds to the delight of the growing crowd shortly after our talk with Rob, to see just how the restoration was progressing.
Some of your original on the left side. I found the material folds where the man is on the left side right now. And it looked like you had a little bit richer brown.
This must be a rather fulfilling moment after 33 years coming back and finally getting a cleansing the way it should be. What's your impression as far as the way things are going?
Very fine. The scaffolding is almost identical with our original scaffolding. It may be a little lighter than it was then because we had the big corpus to lift it. We don't have to do that today. But it's an excellent job so far as I can see now.
There's one thing that I notice about the crucifix than any other crucifix in the world, and that there's the lack of the pain and suffering on this crucifix, and there's no wound in the side.
My objective at the very beginning, and as I talked with Father Brophy at that time, was not to amplify the suffering and pain and anguish of the crucified Christ, but to somehow portray Christ in a peaceful way, and a way that would make people, encourage people to make them feel better than worse.
Marshall Fredericks' goal has been accomplished through the testimony of millions who visited the cross in the woods the past 33 years. Now even more brilliant and inspiring with the cleaning completed. Michigan Magazine invites all to visit the world's largest crucifix, a most inspiring Michigan landmark at Indian River.